Welcome to Mac and Guru Sports, where we bring you the most uncensored, unfiltered, and kick-ass sports on the web. Ladies and gentlemen, NBA Finals are set. Golden State Warriors versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. The matchup we've wanted all year. Mac, what's your predictions and why?
Well, starting off, I just want to say these have been the best two teams all season. When you look at the Warriors, you look at a team that transitioned from Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr, led by the Splash Brothers. Solid play along the perimeter with Harrison Barnes and Iguodala. Inside, you have Bogut, Spates, you have Lee. So when I look at this team, I just think about quality depth. They're about 10, 11 deep. These are just not the regular shooters that we're used to. These are probably the with that backcourt, this is probably the best shooters that we've ever seen. So it's going to be very difficult for the Cavs to match up in terms of the perimeter play. And when I look at the Cavs, it started off as the big three, right? Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, Love. But at this particular time of the season, we're just really going into it with LeBron and a decent supporting cast, and and a so-so coach. So I would have to give Golden State, all the leverage so far in this situation, and I like the matchups for them. I think that you could put Barnes on LeBron. You also can put Iguodala on LeBron as well. So, with Bogut behind him, that can slow things down. So I'm going to lean towards the Warriors taking this finals.
Mac, I love the Cleveland Cavaliers in this series. I love the resolve that this team have shown throughout the playoffs. You lose Kevin Love against the Boston Celtics to a dislocated shoulder. You lose Kyrie Irving to a sprained knee, ankle problems, Achilles problems. LeBron James came back to Cleveland for this. He came back to win a championship. Cleveland sports have been through a multitude years of losing. The Cleveland Browns, the Cleveland Indians, the Cleveland Cavaliers haven't won a championship in 45 years. LeBron came back for this. He went past the bright lights of Miami Beach, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, to come back to Akron, to come back to Cleveland, Ohio, to bring this team a championship. And I love Steph Curry. I love Klay Thompson. But I don't think LeBron's going to be denied, no matter who he has. And, we know J.R. Smith is lethal from the three-point range. We know Iman Shumpert has picked up his three-point shooting in the playoffs. Timothy Mozgov is a player. Tristan Thompson is playing for a contract, averaging double-digit boards in the playoffs. One of the best offensive rebounders in the league. Matthew Dellavedova has come out of nowhere to become a contributor. I love this Cavs resolve. David Blatt can't coach a lick, but LeBron James is that coach and GM. And I think LeBron James will not be denied. It's Cleveland. It's his city. It's his town. He's going to do whatever it takes to win a championship.
Guru, I hear everything that you're saying, but that whole destiny thing, that doesn't make much sense to me. Basketball is played on the court. It's about execution. It's about coaching. It's about personnel. That's what wins on the court. So in terms of, LB coming back to Cleveland, it's a great story. It sounds good. As a person, I root for LeBron. I think he's a good guy. But as a basketball player, I just think that, if it's regular season, if it's early stages of the playoffs, I like him. I love him. Just don't like him when it gets deep. When you get to the finals, some Eastern Conference Finals, but definitely in the finals. I think when he gets with the big boys, he definitely doesn't show up. So far, he's 2-3. We know that a Ray Allen shot saved him a couple years ago. We also know that Scott Brooks is another coach that he beat in the finals who's been fired since then. So he's got a little assistance with the 2 championships that he's won, and he's lost 3. So definitely, I think when somebody's filling up the stat sheet, off top, people want to go and say, this guy is doing a lot of damage. He has a high impact on the game. But, if you really dial into the details of what's going on the actual basketball court, and you don't just look at the numbers, you see that a guy can be out-coached. Because we know his teams usually have an inferior coach. Miami, their coach wasn't top-notch. This Cleveland team doesn't have a top-notch coach. But when he goes up against, Greg for the San Antonio Spurs, when he goes up against Dallas a couple years ago, these coaches are able to match his basketball IQ. And they're able to set a perimeter around the rim so that he can't just drive in there anytime he wants to. And then they release from certain players and stay home on other players to cut down on his shooting ability. So now it knocks all the advantages that he has in the game. They have the proper personnel to do it, and they have the right approach in terms of the strategy to knock it out. And then what I see with LeBron also is that when there's a legitimate challenge, he seems to get a little nervous. He'll start, talking a little bit. You'll get him out of his game. He'll start standing around looking silly. All of a sudden, that hairline to go back a little further. So I definitely don't like him in the finals at all. And I hear what you're saying with this Destiny stuff, but that don't have nothing to do with basketball. Basketball is played on the court. You win with execution. You win with coaching. So that's just not enough.
I understand what you're talking about, Mac. But the Golden State Warriors have no experience outside of the coach. No player has played in the finals on their roster, to my knowledge. You have LeBron James, have been in, 5 finals. James Jones, multiple finals. Sean Marion, multiple finals. Mike Miller, multiple finals. And although these guys haven't played, I think you're going to see these guys in the final round. LeBron James is playing for a legacy. And I think we all know 2-3 is 2-3. Greg Popovich and the Spurs, Hall of Fame organization. Not Hall of Fame coach, not Hall of Fame players, a Hall of Fame organization. And when you look at Golden State Warriors, I get the idea, I get the thought that they may be happy to be there. No professional championship in years. Steve Kerr, first-year head coach. Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, the furthest they ever been in the playoffs. We haven't seen much of the veterans on Cleveland. But I just think come June, come the NBA Finals, one of those old, crippled veterans for Cleveland going to make a shot. That playoff experience, that finals experience is going to make a difference come June.
Let me ask you a question. So you're telling me that you trust James Jones, you trust Thompson, you trust Moscow, you trust those guys over a Barnes, a Iguodala, a Bogut, a Lee, a Spates, Barbosa. You trust those 3 or 4 guys. No, also, I'm sorry, J.R. Smith, Amon Shepard. You like the supporting cast of the Cavs more than you like the supporting cast of the Golden State Warriors.
I love LeBron James. I love the resolve on that team. And veterans, Marion Miller, those guys haven't played all postseason, but they're not afraid of the moment. I don't know what Harrison Barnes is going to do in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. I don't know what Leandro Barbosa is going to do in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. I love Steph Curry. I love Klay Thompson. But those guys haven't been there before. I'm going to put my money on LeBron James. I'm going to put my money on Sean Marion. I'm going to put my money on Mike Miller. I'm going to put my money on James Jones. Just like Ray Allen. Ray Allen wasn't much of a factor of that series, but he hit that shot.
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry hadn't never been to a Western Conference Finals prior to this season. Am I correct?
They beat the Houston Rockets. They swept the Houston Rockets in the regular season. They're a better team than the Houston Rockets. This doesn't probably feel like a Western Conference matchup to them.
Okay.
Cleveland has won with less. LeBron, Eastern Conference playoffs have not been great. You know, they beat a Boston Celtics team. They beat a dysfunctional Chicago Bulls team. And they beat a happy to be there Atlanta Hawks team. But the will that LeBron James shows, the lore of this greatness, if he can win a championship with this group of guys, he catapults himself. And we know LeBron James is great. But if he can win a championship with this group of guys, I may be willing to say he's the second best player ever now. Not 5 years from now, not when he retire. If he can catapult this team to an NBA championship, there's nobody greater but Jordan, man.
I agree with that. I mean, if you can take this supporting cast and you can go out west and win, I give it to you all day. I would have to back down a lot of the criticism that I've had for him in the past. But, I just don't see it. I'm willing to bet the house on it. And we'll see when the finals start. I got the Warriors all day.